Okay, it is officially recording, everybody, just so you know.
All right, perfect.
Everybody is here.
Start?
Something else, Alex, you can also always do use Dropbox and then give people access to that one file, and then people can drop things that way.
That's true. I have tried, I am not super great at Dropbox, but yeah, that's another option if I'm having a lot of luck with Google. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Stick to what you know, right?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, can you let me know if everybody can hear me? I don't know if my microphone's actually working with my headset.
I can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah, you sound
perfect.
good.
Yeah, they're just, I think these are skull candies that I got from Walmart. So,
Oh, awesome. I love skull candy.
they're actually a really good brand. These
Yeah.
actually may not even be skull candies. No, these are the headphones that came with my kit for my Nintendo Switch. So they're even like
Nice.
cheaper quality headphones, but I just wanted to make sure I was heard. All right, good.
I'm waiting to take my edible until after class, so that way it doesn't happen like it did last time where I'm like, in class, in the middle of class, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, holy shit.
Hey, Brandon's here.
The edibles have at least been making it easier to sleep and stuff with being sick, so that's good.
Oh, I just it's the only way I like being high.
Or that too.
And it helps with my, depressive non-eating. Because I'm like, oh, I can eat so much without feeling nauseous.
Right? So, I'm ready.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about Reiki. And there are a ton of different types of Reiki. And I'm mostly just going to talk about traditional Usui and angelic Reiki because those are the ones that I personally have practiced and I have experiences with. But there are tons of other ones. So if I don't touch on a specific type that you are interested in, then definitely continue to pursue that route yourself. But Reiki is a Japanese form of alternative medicine called energy healing. And I'm just going to briefly touch on energy healing for people who might not be familiar with it. Basically, energy healing targets energy fields in and around the body, and practitioners believe that energy can stagnate in the body where there's been either physical injuries or even emotional distress. So in time, these blockages can cause illnesses, and energy medicine in general helps to regulate the flow of energy through the body and removes those blockages, similar to acupuncture and acupressure, which are also forms of energy medicine. And by improving this flow around the body, it enables you to be able to relax more, it reduces pain, it speeds up healing, and it can reduce other symptoms of illnesses that you're experiencing. Reiki practitioners typically use a method called hands-on healing or palm healing, and that's where the practitioner will channel universal energy through their palms and then transfer the energy to the patient. Or in the words of my Reiki master, if you ask her what Reiki is, she says that Reiki is the gift of vitality and self-preservation encoded into the genetic makeup of all of God's creatures. It is the higher self's connection to the universe that breathes in all the energy to all of the living things, and we are all born with the omniscient wisdom to heal and preserve life. All things are connected. So, it's pronounced Reiki, and it's thought to be an ancient healing form that was rediscovered in the 1800s by Dr. Mikao Usui, and we'll talk more in depth about him a little bit later. But Reiki has changed a ton and adapted a lot since its rediscovery, which I kind of touched a little bit on earlier. So we're going to focus on the traditional Usui system and then the angelic Reiki system, which was channeled by Kevin Core in 2002, 2003. So the actual words Reiki, it has roots in two words. the first one being Rei, which means the universe, and then Ki, which means force of energy. If you went to my chakra class, we kind of talked a little bit about like Chi and Ki and the universal life force. So depending on what modality you're like looking at, it could be called something else. But basically, Ki is what is used in Reiki, and it is the energy that is in all living things and composes all living things. So like in Tai Chi or Qigong, or in Chinese medicine, they call it Qi, but since we're looking at Reiki, they call it Ki. It's the same thing, just the divine, universal energy that has created and like encompasses everything. The traditional Usui Reiki, there are typically three levels. In some cases, four. It really depends on your Reiki master and how they've set up the attunements. Attunements are huge for Reiki, so I just want to kind of go over what that is. And that's the process when a Reiki master passes the universal energy to the student, so they become attuned to the universal energy and they can use it to heal others. Through the attunement process, they're able to tap into that energy, to heal people with it, to balance people, places, situations. Attunements can only be given by a Reiki master, and the whole purpose is to empower the student with that energy so they can go on to heal themselves and heal other people if that's what they want to end up doing. There are 5 Reiki principles, and this is how they were taught to me. So if you Google them, they might differ a little bit, but I was introduced to them like this. So just for today, do not worry. Just for today, do not anger. Just for today, feel gratitude for all of my blessings. Just for today, live an honest living. And just for today, show kindness to all living things. So every day you're supposed to wake up and embody all of these things. And for my Reiki master, it was really important, the just for today part, because today is all we have. I mean, of course, we've experienced the past, but that's not our present. And the only thing that we really have control over is the now. So don't worry, don't anger, live in gratitude, live honestly, and show kindness every day. Like that's the things that Reiki really tries to embody and encompass. Do you have any questions or anything before I move on to the history?
So in those, what you just told us, those were the principles you said?
Yes.
So with the principles of that, is that for a Reiki master and teacher or for the person that they are performing Reiki on?
When you get attuned, those are supposed to be like the processes that you live by, and like when you use that tool, those are the processes that you're supposed to think of and embody. Does that make sense and help answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Of course.
So with Reiki healing is, because I know you said with attunement, it's so we can heal ourselves and heal others. Are we not able to do sort of any of those types of healings on ourselves until we achieve attunement from a Reiki master?
That is a great question. So like everyone's born with the ability to do it already, but the attunements that you get when you go through a Reiki class help open up those channels more, so you are more conscious of when you're doing it. So like when little kids fall and they like instantly like grab their hand, like grab it with their hand, or like when you kiss like a bruise or something, that's kind of like your own version of energy healing. Like you're automatically like putting your hands over it to like put pressure on it or whatever, but that is also you intuitively using energy healing. So we do it all the
Then
time.
I do Reiki daily.
Yeah, exactly. So we totally do it daily, but like
Okay.
humans from a master just help it come in stronger, basically.
Okay, cool.
That was a great question. All right, if we don't have any other questions, I'm just going to start going through the history of it. As we mentioned earlier, it was developed by Dr. Usui, and it has gone through many adaptations. As it spread through the Americas, it spread here via Heyo Takata, and I'm probably butchering most of these people's names, so I apologize. She was a Hawaiian-born Japanese woman, and she was introduced to Reiki through one of Dr. Usui's practitioners. So Dr. Usui was a Japanese scholar and a Christian minister. He was born in the mid-19th century and was fascinated by Buddha and his desire to help other people and the unusual metaphysical abilities that Buddha received after his enlightenment. And it was said that Buddha could physically heal illnesses and that the ability was passed on to his disciples. So Dr. Usui saw the unhappiness and the suffering of those around him, and that is what sent him on this quest to try and seek out the secrets that were used by Buddha and Jesus to help the sick and needy. So he traveled all throughout Japan and the United States, where he pursued a doctorate in theology, but he didn't really find any answers there in relation to his healing endeavors. So he traveled back to Japan, where he became friends with monks at a Zen monastery, and they allowed him to stay there and read some of the Buddhist scriptures that are called the sutras. And he became friends with an abbot who was also really interested in the physical healing. So he really encouraged Dr. Usui to keep pursuing this. He read the Japanese translations, but he didn't really find what he was looking for, so he wanted to read them in their original language. So then Dr. Usui ended up learning Chinese and eventually Sanskrit. And one of the Indian sutras is when he discovered the formula to give him the knowledge to heal in that higher power. And he thought that Buddha actually used this same formula for the knowledge and healing himself. So once he learned all of this, he went back and he was talking to the abbot, and they decided that even though with all of the stuff that he learned and like the formula itself, that wasn't really enough. So they decided that he was going to go and make kind of like a pilgrimage to Mount Koriyama, which is a sacred mountain. And he fasted there and meditated there for 21 days. And to keep track, he brought up different stones, and each day he threw one of the stones away to keep track of time. But at the end of the 21st day, he threw his stones and he realized that he still didn't have the healing power. So he sat there all night and still didn't understand and thought that he had like failed his quest. And he got up and he looked towards the horizon and he noticed a beam of light, and all of a sudden the beam of light like got bigger and expanded over him, and a pillar of white light came down and surrounded him. And then that was when he had the visions and received the sacred symbols that are used in traditional Usui. And that was what helped basically birth it. So that is really like the universal attunement, I guess. And that's how Usui Reiki was born. After that, he founded his first clinic in Tokyo in 1922. He taught several different Reiki masters to try and ensure that the system wouldn't be forgotten. Among those people are Chiara Ohicha, who was a former naval officer. And he also ended up creating a Reiki clinic in Tokyo. And that is where Miss Takata ended up taking her classes. She originally sought out this Reiki master because she was looking for healing herself. She ended up falling in love with it and taking the classes and becoming a master practitioner herself by 1940. And then that's when she decided that she was going to bring it back to the United States. And she's really the person who brought it to the Western world. And that kind of brings up Reiki lineage. So those are 3 people so there was Dr. Usui, who he taught, and then Takata, who brought it here. And if you take Reiki lineage, or if you take Reiki lineage is something that is pretty commonly talked about between Reiki practitioners. So in theory, you should be able to track your Reiki lineage back all the way back to Dr. Usui. So you shouldn't be able to know what generation of a practitioner you are. So I come from a line where I'm an 8th generation. So there are 8 people between me and Dr. Usui. And I personally find that really important because I think of it like the game of telephone. So the farther away you get from the original source, the more like misrepresentation, or the more things get changed, and not necessarily that they're trying to be changed, but just different things get interpreted differently. So I like to find someone as close to the source as possible. So that's something that I really encourage people to look into when they're getting into Reiki themselves. Like if they're talking to a practitioner and they have no idea about Reiki lineage, like that's fine. And that's not saying you shouldn't take a class from them, but that's just something to keep in mind, because you should be able to trace back to the point of origin. With that being said, I did actually take angelic Reiki before I ever took Usui Reiki. So that's definitely not the original principle. So it's not wrong if you want to do Reiki that isn't the original Usui traditional Reiki. I just felt like after I did my angelic Reiki class that there was still stuff missing, and that's why I went back to the basics. But do we have any questions before I move to my next, like, kind of breakdown about what a traditional Usui class is like, and kind of what the difference would be between angelic Reiki and Usui Reiki?
All good here.
This is so cool.
I know, I love it. I do have a question. It's kind of not necessarily, well, okay. Do you have all of this typed out, and can you send it to me?
Yes, I can. So it's a really rough draft, but like I'll clean it up and send it over to you. Yes.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
I'm glad you like it. All right. So most Reiki is taught in a pretty basic format, but the variety and teaching methods really vary a lot based on your Reiki master. And that's something else that I really love about Reiki. So my Reiki master has probably taken Reiki 1 by 7 different masters. And it's just because even though you already know it and you've already learned it, you can always gain more information from a different master or a different teacher, just because I feel like different teachers pull in different things. So I would never write off a teacher either. Like if you're really drawn to like take a Reiki class and you've already taken that Reiki class, why not take it? Like you might learn something. And if you decide that you don't like that teacher, that's totally fine. But yeah, so different teaching modalities from different teachers. So also something to keep in mind. But typically for Usui Reiki, there are usually 3 levels, sometimes 4. The first level is first degree, which is typically self-care and personal transformation. This one is more about, well, it's open to anyone. So you don't have to have any previous experience with any type of other healing modalities. And the course is usually taught over 2 to 4 days. You'll typically get the history and the principles of Reiki, which is pretty much what I covered earlier. You also will learn how to channel the Reiki energies, and you get an attunement as well. So the level 1 attunement joins the student with the universal life energy, and it opens that door for you to become a channel. So the channel runs from your crown chakra at the top of your head to your root chakra at the base of your spine. And when you're getting attuned, it unblocks any blockages that you have and realigns and releases things. So you become a clear channel, at least in that moment, and you become harmonized. But if you took my chakra basics class, aligning and keeping your chakras balanced is a forever struggle. So,
It is.
right, constant work.
Constantly.
Yeah, so it opens you up to those energies. It gives you the permanent connection. It enables you to be able to feel the flow of energy through your hands. You have chakras in your palms that are what help the energy flow out. And even though we all work with Reiki energy every day, that is something that comes more so with a Reiki attunement that I didn't, at least personally, experience before I had attunements, but afterwards, like I can definitely feel what like static in my palms. It depends on the person, but you definitely can like feel an activation. Sometimes it could be like cold or warm, like pulsing sensations. Level 1 is really more focused on self-healing and self-transformation. So you can remove your own energy blockages, and you can also like heal your friends and heal your family. And that's usually the most classes that people would need if they just want to do family and friends. In Reiki 1, it is really all just about that connection with the divine and learning how that feels and how to channel it. As I talked about earlier, Reiki does have symbols, but you don't learn any of the symbols in Reiki 1. It's all just about the energy and learning how to channel that energy. So Reiki level 2, that's more about helping others, and that's when you get into distance healing. Hold on, sorry. I lost my spot. The amount of energy channeled can vary considerably. So after your first Reiki class, they might have you like wait for a couple months before you get attuned to a level 2 class, just to make sure that you have been working with the energy and you kind of understand it better. In Reiki 2, students are taught to draw 3 main symbols, which help you connect more deeply to the universal energy. There is a power symbol, which helps you increase what energy is being channeled. It's used to cleanse, to purify, and protect. There is an emotional balance symbol, which allows students to work with energies on a mental and emotional level. It's meant to bring harmony to those and help soothe troubled minds. You also learn a distance symbol, which allows you to send Reiki across space and time. So unlike in Reiki 1, where you have to place your hands on the person that you're healing, you don't need that in Reiki 2. You are able to heal someone anywhere in the world with Reiki, just based on that mental connection that you have. And then in level 3, that is the Reiki Master level, you learn another symbol, and that basically is just to amp up all your previous symbols. It is a symbol that represents light and enlightenment. It opens up the gateway to universal consciousness in the 3rd level, and it aligns and centers all of your energy to source energy. The symbol helps you work with Reiki energy on a spiritual level as well as just a healing level. So it can be used in meditation to connect to your inner truths and your life path, basically.
So
Yeah.
the person that you were talking about before, I forgot their name, but the one who basically was the founder or creator of this style of Reiki, did they create the symbol? Who created the symbols?
Yes. So I guess he didn't really create them. He channeled them when the beam of light came down, but they are traditionally from Dr. Usui. It's kind of hard to say if the symbols are exactly the same because Reiki was an oral tradition for a very long time and they weren't allowed to write anything down and they weren't allowed to write symbols down. So all the symbols that were learned had to be learned there in the, like the Reiki master would tell you if you learned it or not, but you were never allowed to write them down. So they might differ a little bit based on the original, but they are original to Usui Reiki as far as I am aware. Like specific lines can be lost over time. Like I have like the master symbol, or actually the distance symbol. I took it with one teacher and one line was missing, and then I took it with another teacher and there was a line there. And if you remove that line, it totally changes the symbol. So, I mean, it's still a distance healing symbol, but without having that one line in there, it doesn't connect it back to the original principle. So basically, they could be different from the original, but they are Usui symbols. Does that make sense?
It does.
Exact.
That makes a lot of sense because tarot cards are also an oral tradition. And so a lot of the symbology has completely changed over time as it was brought to different countries throughout the world. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so it's as close to the original as possible, but yeah, some things get lost and changed over time. And it does, like your symbols do differ based on what type of Reiki you're looking at. So Usui typically has its own set of traditional symbols, and then like angelic Reiki, I got a different set of symbols. And there's one symbol that's called Daikumyo, and that's a master symbol. And if you take one set of Reiki, it looks one way. And if you take a different set of Reiki, they still call it Daikumyo, but it looks a totally different way. And that's more of a Tibetan version versus a Japanese version. But yeah, interesting with the
So, thank you.
Of course, thank you. Yeah. For angelic Reiki, it's more of angelic Reiki allows you to bring in higher vibrational energies known as light beings that help you work with the physical body, ancestral body, emotional and karmic imbalances. And instead of with Usui Reiki, where it's done by another human and we're channeling that life energy, this one you act more so as a channel instead of channeling and using your life energy to heal the person. In angelic Reiki, you're purely a channel. So in angelic Reiki, you become a channel for angels, basically, and each person gets their own personal healing angel that helps them to connect and heal people. So they are totally responsible for the healing, and you are literally just the medium between the angel and the receiver.
When you say angel, it is, and you said this was Tibetan, is it more of then the Tibetan, which would be closer to Zen Buddhism type of angel, or is it closer to the Judeo-Christian idea of an angel?
So it's interesting because they use Tibetan symbols in this type of Reiki, but it was channeled by this man who was in England. So the angels that I learned about are typically the more like Judeo-Christian angels, like Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Metatron is who like channeled the whole thing or helped channel the whole thing. So
Is this like the angel in the book of Revelations with like the 30,000 eyeballs, or like the people with wings kind of angel?
More like the people with wings kind of angel, although I do feel like I'm more of a fan of the 30,000 eyeballs creepy angel myself.
I had a quick question touching back on something with distance healing.
Yes.
I know we've kind of talked in our other classes when we're doing certain healing spells or anything like that, kind of that the other person needs to be receptive of things. Like you can't just be like, heal, you're going to get healed. You're getting healed. We don't care what you think. Would this kind of be the same thing, that we're not just, it's not a prayer for somebody, so you're not sitting around talking to God being like, hey, can you fix them, even if the person doesn't believe? This is something that the person needs to be receptive of and aware that you're doing.
Yes. And like, I always think that because I feel like that really goes back to like ethics with magic. So I personally don't think that you should really be sending anyone anything without their consent or knowledge, even if you're coming from a place of love and light and like you're trying to like give them this healing energy. So I typically won't, but like I've also had masters that are like, I send them energy whenever like I see that someone's hurting, and I might like do like a quick little Reiki symbol in my hand and then like go touch their back and be like, hey, I just hope you're feeling better, you know? So I think it really depends on you. I typically don't send anyone any energy healing because I don't think that they're going to accept it. Like if their higher self hasn't tuned into accept those vibrations, then I don't think that the energy is really going to be received by them anyway. So that's my personal take.
I agree.
Yeah, like you have to believe is another thing. And like, especially for Reiki, it's really about energy exchange. So if you're not putting something into the healing, then you're most likely not going to get anything out of it. And I feel like that also kind of goes back to a lot of people struggle with like, do I ask people for money when I do a spiritual service or not? Because on one hand, spiritual services, like in my mind, should be free. Like you're doing a service for these people. But then on the other hand, like you do need some type of energy exchange and balance, or it's not going to work purely because they don't have any skin in the game type thing, you know?
Totally. That was something that I had to definitely think about when I made everything free. was
Yeah.
that there
Yeah.
also had to be some sort of exchange going on as well, even if it wasn't money.
Yeah, and it totally doesn't have to be money, but there has to be some type of like energy exchange there. Definitely, like money doesn't have to be, but like you were saying, like cookies or something that someone has like put time and energy in, I feel like makes a spell or like a healing so much more intense and so much more worthwhile for everyone involved. So yeah. Do we have any more questions before I jump back into angelic Reiki? All right. So it was channeled by Kevin Core, and that was between October 2002 and February 2003 from Archangel Metatron. And he met his wife, Christine, in the 90s, where he rented a healing room from her in a center in North England. Apparently, they were twin flames, and they were brought together to fulfill the spiritual purpose of birthing angelic Reiki, which was supposed to be the perfect balance between male and female energies. And the Angelic Reiki Association was born on the 20th of August in 2009 and is working to promote that type of healing modality as it was channeled originally. Kevin ended up passing away from cancer in 2009, but Christine still runs the healing center and tries to keep his vision of Reiki alive still. So some of the differences between angelic and Usui Reiki, which we've kind of touched on already, but just go over some major points. One is the source of energy. So in Usui Reiki, it comes from the practitioner who has that connection to source. But in angelic Reiki, the recipient and the practitioner are both connected to the divine through the angelic realm. So they are connected into a source of higher vibrational energy. And the Reiki practitioner simply transmits the energy by placing their hands on the patient's body and then calling through the angels. For Usui Reiki, you're more hands-on. You might be drawing symbols, and like with the symbols, you might like put together a spell for a certain thing or a certain ailment to heal a person. But with angelic Reiki, you're literally just like, I ask my healing angels to step in. You don't have to do any of the symbols. You don't need any other tools. I mean, you don't need any other tools with Usui Reiki either, but it's literally, you just put your hands on the person's body. It doesn't matter where you put your hands on the person's body. The angel is supposed to step through you and do all the work. Usui is more hands-on. You're doing more of the work than the energy that you're channeling.
So then, if you are using sigils or symbols, to as well as spells and as well as the craft to do Usui Reiki, then when he studied theology, did he study witchcraft? Was that an original part of his whole thing?
I say spell because I feel like that's the most relatable thing to what we would call it. But he doesn't call it spells. And traditionally, they never worked with chakras either, but that's what we work with today. So they have their own energy system that they worked with, but typically now everyone works with chakras. So that's kind of like how I teach it, is that they focus on the chakra energy points. But yeah, they would call it a Reiki sentence. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, I think of it like a spell because it needs a certain formula. So you would have like your power symbol at the beginning, and then if you wanted to heal someone mentally, you'd have the mental one in there, and then you could close it with the power symbol again. So that would be like an example of a Reiki sentence that you would draw into your hand and then place onto the body or onto whatever part that you were healing. But those change depending on whatever ailment you're trying to heal. So that's what I mean by like a spell, is like the thing that you're writing out to heal the person.
Awesome. That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, so they wouldn't call that traditionally a spell, but in my mind, and since I feel like we all relate to that, that's what I'm calling it for this class.
Awesome.
So attunements are also very different between the two. The energy source that comes from angelic Reiki comes from the angelic light kingdom, and the attunements are done through like the angels that live in the angelic light kingdom. On the other hand, the Usui, the Reiki practitioner, does all of the attunements. They will come around and put different symbols in your hand. They'll touch your head. They do different things to your body. And again, it's more of a proactive when it's Usui. And then when it's angelic Reiki, it's more of a being channeled, and you meditate and you go to this other space where you get attuned. The role of a practitioner, like I've been saying, that's also very different. Like in Usui, you chant, you draw, you might visualize something. You could use crystals depending on what type of Reiki that you're doing. In angelic Reiki, you're very passive and you just follow whatever instructions you hear from your healing angel. The connection to the divine is different. like I've been saying, one is solely you channeling, and the other one is more of a conversation, and like more of you know what's happening and you're more of an active participant. And then experiences and sensations differ, but those differ for everyone. So you might be tingly, you might get hot, you might get cold, but you're always supposed to feel some type of like love and warmth and peace and tranquility. Sorry. So what happens in a Reiki session? Basically, a Reiki session should be in a peaceful setting. It can be carried out anywhere. A patient could be sitting, they could be lying down. There could be music, there might not be, depending on the master's preference. I like to use music or like singing bowls to help the person get relaxed. The practitioner usually places their hands lightly over the head and different limb areas, including the torso, and makes different hand shapes depending on the Reiki. And they usually stay in those positions 2 to 5 minutes. There are typically about 20 different hand positions or areas in the body that you would go over. If there's a particular energy or burn, then you would hold your hands over that wound. You hold your hands lightly over the body. You don't have to touch the person if they don't want to. You could just be like a couple inches from the body. It's all really about the energy transfer. So Reiki includes clearing, centering, removing harmful energies, infusing things into your energy, soothing and raking out things in your aura. And like I was saying earlier, some practitioners could use crystals or chakra wands because they feel like it increases their healing, but you don't need to. All you really need is your hands. A session is typically between 15 and 90 minutes. The number of sessions that you need varies depending on what you're working on. Yeah, that's all I really have.
Awesome. That was really, really cool. That was so great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let me see if I have any more questions.
I wish Rona was over so we could have like a live class on this, and she could just like, you know, crack my back like a glow stick and make me all good again.
I would love to crack you like a glow stick.
I want someone to crack my back like a glow stick. Ugh.
I know. I wish we could do this class in person as well. When I brought up to Katana teaching Reiki, it was definitely a discussion that we had that it's much better in person. And
yeah, so much gets lost. Like it really is a hands-on modality at first. Like you can learn how to do it distance, but I really feel like so much is missed if you're not there.
yeah. And so when we go further with Reiki, I hope that, yeah, we can do it in person. And you guys can actually get a chance, if Katana's okay with it, with maybe getting some healing done, which would be really cool.
Yes, I would love to do healings on people.
That would be super fun. And I guess since you said that technically, because you're a master, right? So technically you could do it distance wise, even though it's probably much cooler not distance.
Yeah, I feel like especially if you've never had a Reiki session before, I feel like it's better to do them in person. I mean, yeah, you definitely can like do them over distance. I really like to do distance work. I mean, when I have done distance work, I prefer more to do like stuff that's like tapping into like more of your past stuff, like the part that I did really well on when I was taking the class wasn't so much of like picking up on someone distance wise, but picking up on someone that had passed away and like healing that type of like past trauma. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting the different things that you can do with Reiki that I feel like when I first started, I didn't realize you could do.
What kind of stuff can you do with Reiki? Other than just everybody knows, like, the energy you lay on a table and they heal you. But other than that, like, what else can you do?
You can like infuse your water, you can infuse your food, you can infuse crystals, jewelry. I use it a lot for infusing. I really liked the distance stuff because it really does connect you more on a psychic level, and brings out that type of intuition. Yeah, like I was talking about earlier, you can kind of almost go back in time. Like the woman that I was reading the photo of, it was this woman's mother, and I was like, okay, she's like the glue that holds this house together. I'm also getting like the word aneurysm, and she had ended up passing away from an aneurysm. So I went in and did like healing work that was more just like she was still upset about her mother's passing and just like emotional issues that she hadn't really come to terms with yet. So you can tap in with your distance symbol to like pick up that kind of stuff, and then you can time travel and like go into the past and try and fix these things. But you also have to move your energy out into the present to make sure what you fixed in the past is also fixed in the future. See, this is why these classes get so intense online, but
That is awesome.
it makes more sense when you're all together, like learning and doing it. Like you can visualize when you do the symbol and like write the sentence, you can see like where you're at on the timeline almost, and you can look to the one direction and see like that's the past path that you have to fix, and then you can see on the other side the future stuff, and basically you just want to make sure that that's all in line as to how you want, right?
So cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Neat. I can't wait to do another Reiki class with you. Maybe this can be a thing where you do like a 5-class course for people. Maybe once we can do it in person, that would be better for you, but still, I think it'd be really cool if you did.
Yeah, I could definitely look into that. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I'd like that.
Well, it's definitely really interesting.
It is.
Yeah, that would be interesting to learn about.
And then
I'll try to find cheap plane flights.
Right.
Oh, where are you from?
Louisiana.
Oh, well, good to have you with us.
Yeah. I'm the distance person. I get to do everything distance no matter what.
You're
'Cause
just special.
Yeah, I get to do, but I have New Orleans down here, and I keep telling myself when all of this is over, I'm headed down there to check out some stuff too, because we have really awesome stuff down here. But I keep going, okay, how much are plane tickets to Colorado? Like, I need a trip really bad to go see everybody.
Just come out when we come pick up Ben. We can pick you up too.
Yes. Well, and then I also have to, which thankfully I can bring work with me, so that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
One of these days. We gotta get there first. For ourselves.
Well, thank you so much, Katana. That was an amazing class.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Do we have any questions or anything else before we call it a day?
No, I just miss your beautiful face.
I miss you guys' beautiful faces.
Yeah, I miss you.
Yeah,
I
I
can't wait till we can hang out.
I just
Right.
want to say thank you so much for this. It's been lovely.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hi, Brandon.
Hello.
Really? and it's really interesting. The way you explained it, it just reminded me of obviously having no training or even idea about it. Times where I wish I could do those things, by trying to bring comfort to someone or trying to help someone, and like picturing like energy and trying to support them that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all use energy healing every day. We don't even realize it. All right. Well, I've had a great time. And if you guys think of anything else that you want to go over, like any questions, you can always on Facebook. But yeah.
Katana is tagged on our main Facebook page, and she is also in our private Facebook group. So if you just click on members, you can ask her any questions that you want. She's listed under members in our private Facebook group.
Yeah, you can send me a friend request. You can just shoot me a message, anything you want. I am there for you if you want me.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you,
I
Katana.
can spam you with memes.
I mean, aren't you already her
Ew,
friend?
your memes are my
Oh my god. So it got
Fantastic.
worse, by the way. Sorry. Oh.
All right, guys. Well, I have to get ready for work tomorrow. So I love you.
Have
all.
fun, be safe, do drugs.
I will. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.